Well, it looks like it is now 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot of really wonderful artists joining us for this evening. So thank you all so much for joining us here on the internet and in the gallery and at the museum and in all of your homes. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight. My name is Everett, and I work in exhibitions and programs here at the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. And tonight we are joined by our program practicum student who's helping us organize all of these wonderful things, and she is a superstar, and is Emma Laser. And she and I will be taking you through some wonderful artworks from In These Uncertain Times, and we'll be joined by 6 artists this evening who will be talking a little bit more about their pieces from the show and also their practice throughout this time. But before we get started, I want to go ahead and do a land acknowledgement. So the MAH is located in downtown Santa Cruz, and so the land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Awaswas-speaking Yuipi tribe. The Amamutsan tribal band, comprised of the descendants of indigenous peoples taken to missions Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during Spanish colonialization of the Central Coast, is today working hard to restore the traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical trauma. And before we get started too, I just want to thank all of our MAH members who are joining us here this evening. We're super excited to have you part of this series. Just a couple of reminders that we do have another virtual family day coming up on March 13th, which is very exciting. So go ahead and check out our website for more programs and information on virtual activities that are happening here at the MAH. And also, if you're not a member, if you become a member, you can attend all these virtual talks for free and also attend all of our programs and other events that we have coming up. We've got our 25th anniversary celebration coming up soon. We've got a lot of fun stuff planned for that. And also members will be, members and exhibiting artists will be the first to hear from us when we do reopen our doors. So we've got some exciting forthcoming news pending that things stay the way that they are currently headed. It looks like we are going to be optimistically looking to reopen in the not too distant future. So the dates on that are still TBD. But go ahead and join our mailing list or follow us on social media, and you'll be the first to know when we do reopen. And we'll be reopening in small pre-scheduled timed visits in small groups. So exciting stuff. I'm really thrilled to invite people back into this space. So it's not just me standing in the gallery talking at a screen. It's going to be fabulous, and we're very, very excited. So yeah, tonight we are here. Tonight is the 4th of our 6-part series of virtual gallery talks for the exhibition In These Uncertain Times. And this exhibition was organized as a way to highlight the creativity and compassion of artists and residents of Santa Cruz County during the pandemic. And I'm going to read and just open with a quick quote from Andurati Roy, who wrote this incredible piece called "The Pandemic is a Portal." And if you get a chance to read the full piece, I highly recommend it, but here's just a little insert here. But historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with a little luggage, ready to imagine another world. So this isn't the first global pandemic, and it won't be the last. And COVID-19 has served as a reminder that our lives are always marked by uncertainty. But thankfully, art can give us space to grieve, process, and heal during difficult times. And if the pandemic is a portal for imagining a better world, our creativity can provide us with the tools we need to move through it. From memorials and portraits in isolation to artworks providing emotional support to essential workers, this exhibition offers an opportunity to share our collective experience of this moment. It features the work of over 60 local artists and highlights the creativity and compassion of Santa Cruz County during this global pandemic. So The exhibition is organized into 5 different sections. And so we've been going through each section per event evening. And tonight's theme is reflecting and connecting. And so the artworks for this section are really kind of looking at themes of introspection and finding ways to connect and reconnect both with yourself and the world around you through this challenging time. So we're really excited to share all of these artworks with you this evening. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Emma, who is going to give an introduction to this section. And then we've got a fun little activity that we'll do with you all as well. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Everett. Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. This quote is by Thomas Merton. COVID-19 has impacted all of us differently. Masks, gloves, protective barriers, and social distancing have become the new normal. But despite all these barriers, people continue to find ways to creatively reconnect with themselves and their communities through this difficult time. The works featured this week dig into ideas around introspection, reflection, and connection to ourselves, to each other, and to the natural world. To start this week off, we'd love to ask you a few questions about how you have been reflecting and connecting.
Thanks, Emma. So we're trying a fun little activity tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll, which I would love for you to participate in, just to get some ideas around how you've been reflecting and connecting during this time. So there are just 4 short questions in this poll. They're all multiple choice. And if you don't see an answer that fits, well, we can talk about it during the Q&A, and we'd love to hear your other responses. But the first question is, what method of reflection have you turned to during these uncertain times? And so the options are talking through it with friends and loved ones, getting creative by making art, music, or writing, or any other creative activity, going for walks or moving your body, cooking and gardening, and I'm sure there are many others as well. The second question is, do you feel like you've gone through a metamorphosis this last year? Yes, no, maybe. I feel like a different person, or I'm still going through it. And that question was actually taken from a piece by Danielle Peters, which you'll see later this evening, that is called Enter the Chrysalis. That's about transformation. And she actually just had her baby a few days ago, which is very sweet. The third question is, when is the last time you wrote a letter to a friend or a loved one? Within the last month, 6 months ago, a year ago? What's a letter? The last question is, did you develop any practice or routine this last year? What new habits will you bring with you into the post-COVID world? And so some of the options are meditation, a new art practice, daily movement, cooking new things, gardening, calling your friends and loved ones more often, or other, because there's a million different ways. So we're just going to give folks maybe another few seconds to answer the poll, just 'cause it's fun to see how people are reflecting and connecting. I know for me, the answer to all of these is all of these. So it's really neat to kind of hear from everyone else too. So it looks like we've got over half of you who have answered so far. And if you don't want to, that's totally fine. No pressure. It's a no low pressure environment. Great. Okay, so another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the poll is now closed. So I'm going to share the results so folks can see. So it looks like majority of folks, for the first question, what method of reflection have you turned to? A lot of people are going for walks or moving your body in new ways, which is very exciting. Do you feel like you've gone through a metamorphosis? Most people are still going through it. I hear you, I feel you, I am there too. 3 was, what's the last time you wrote a letter to a friend or loved one? Kudos to the US Postal Service within the last month, most of you. So good job to all of our letter writers out there. And we have quite a few pieces in the show in this section that actually used post and used art by mail as part of their practice to keep connecting with people and share their creativity, which is always really fun. And again, daily movement was the answer that most people selected for question number 4. So that's fun. Thank you all for participating in that fun, short little poll. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Emma, who's going to introduce our first piece for the evening.
Okay. Also, just as maybe a small active activity that you could do as we are going through tonight is keep track of any ideas that you have through this, because there are many wonderful ideas in terms of how to connect with one another and to nature and to yourself as well. So if you have a little piece of paper and a pencil nearby and want to write down some ideas as we're going along, feel free to have an active reflection as we're going through tonight. Okay, so Expanding is a work by Abby Mustafa, created in graphite and charcoal on paper. Abby says, "This piece is the contemplation of my process of change and progress in an ever-evolving world. It's had many iterations like all of us, and culminated in the deception of a human being joyful in the process, not concerned about the outcome." This work was created during an artist residency at the MAH, which took place for several months during the museum's closure. I had the gallery all to myself, which gave me the space to really think big in a literal sense. And if you do have the chance to come into the gallery when it is open, this piece is very large and absolutely stunning. So I definitely recommend that you come by. For many reasons, of course, there's many beautiful works in this exhibition, but it's great to see the scale of this work as well. Hard to show it in a slideshow. All right, next we have Protect What You Love by Sarah Bianco. This work is a print wall production of a wall mural. Sarah is a painter residing at the Tannery Art Center in Santa Cruz, California. She works out of her studio there called Apricity Gallery. She creates paintings that range from smaller pieces on canvas or panel to large-scale public murals and house painting with her business, Painting by Bianco. She loves to participate in community events and collaborations, spend time in nature, and hang out with her puppy. And Sarah is here tonight and is going to talk a little bit more about her work. Sarah, I will turn it over to you.
Hello. Make sure everyone can see me. Good, everyone? Can you hear me okay? Hi, okay. Well, I'm Sarah, and thank you all for being here. So my piece in this exhibition started off as a mural in my house, actually, and it's actually, I'm going to give you a little visual before I start. It's right here on the other wall. It's right behind me. Anyway, it's the same, pretty much the same exact as the print, except for some of the textures and whatnot. But so the reason I created this piece initially was because there's a group or an organization called Pangea Seed, and they bring together artists to do large-scale murals, which kind of connects environmental issues and activism. And so they do murals all over, or artists all internationally create these amazing, huge murals all over the world. And so they actually were coming to Santa Cruz to do a Mural Festival, which got postponed. It's still going to happen, but so I heard about them through some mutual friends and muralists, and so I started following them. And once the coronavirus started, and everything started getting canceled, they put on this stay-at-home mural festival. So they invited artists from internationally to stay at home and do a piece, a mural in their home and on a wall, wherever, or in their studio, wherever they could do it that would be safe. And so, yeah, when the pandemic started, and I had to stop working. I'm a house painter for my kind of day job, and so it was actually like really a relief for me at first. Selfishly, I could say that, and I think it was like this for a lot of people too. Um, it just made me stop, and it first felt like a little vacation. And I wasn't motivated to do artwork at first. I was, yeah, just like the first thing I started doing was sewing, all these little projects that I had in my house, cooking, yeah, gardening, all these things, in which, I thought it was only going to be a couple of weeks, maybe a month or whatever. So anyway, when the stay-at-home mural festival started or came upon me, it was the first thing that kind of got me inspired to make art, actually, because my whole life, I'm just like a kind of a workaholic. Like I'm working at my job, and then I'm doing art at night, and I'm always like pushing myself to sign up for the next show or to participate in like whatever I can, which is amazing. And I love that life. And this also gave me a real opportunity just to stop, which was really healing for me. So anyway, the Mural Festival it was the first thing that got my juices flowing again. And, we were encouraged to post on Instagram the progression. And so anyway, I started doing it. I picked a wall in my house, and we had like maybe 2 weeks to finish it for the festival. I definitely took way longer than that to do it. So in the meantime, that's when I got invited to participate in this show, because Everett had seen my post on Instagram. So this was kind of, yeah, I wasn't sure whether I was going to just put this mural as my piece in the show. And as time went on through the pandemic, it just became like, it was like more and more things started happening. It was the Black Lives Matter, the fires, it just became one thing after the other. And so my piece, I felt like, how could I really put all of these huge issues that are going on in the world right now into, it just felt like an overwhelming task. And as an artist too, I feel like I end up making my work, and then afterwards I look at it, and it takes me sometimes months to really see like what the piece was actually about for me. So this piece in particular, how it started unfolding was, I felt like I wanted to put imagery of the lungs in the piece, and the lungs, they look like kind of branches of a tree. So I depicted the 2 tree branches and put these blossoming flowers as these pink lungs, just because that felt like, it felt like the lungs, breath. Well, first of all, the coronavirus, that's what it seemed to be attacking, at least, the respiratory system, the breath being like what we're connected to just in life, how we go into meditation, and just that's the one thing that's, we're connected to life with. And when we stop breathing, that's it, so so it just seems like a pretty symbolic symbol for what's happening right now. And and then it just kind of, I don't know, it's like, okay, well, I've got these trees, and then I felt like something needed to go in there, and I'm just really connected with owls, and it's a symbol of wisdom. And also I wanted to go back to, so Pangea Seed, the organization, their tagline or motto or whatever is protect what you love. And that's why, and I've always, I really liked that when I heard it. And so this time period also for me has felt like, you know, us all going into this introspective time and really seeing what's important and, you know, put our energy there. A lot of superficial things have fallen away. A lot of, you know, for me and pretty much everybody I've spoken with is just everyone's examining what is important in their lives and reorganizing their lives accordingly. So the mama owl and the baby owl sort of represented, I just got a puppy not too long ago, and so it's been this kind of motherly experience for me with her. And funny enough, it's like I'm protecting her, but she's also protecting me all the time, or she thinks she is. So that's sort of personally what that represented for me, but also, you know, wildlife, just the animals and plants that are so interconnected with us and the environmental issues and just all of it. So yeah, and then the colors of the spectrum on the outside sort of encased it as a symbol for me to show, I guess, the racial issues that are happening too. And it's just like a beautiful spectrum of color of when light comes in and what that reflects out. Yeah, so I'm going on and on, it feels like, but so I do murals around town, and so this, I feel like this piece has sort of inspired me to keep continuing that in my work, doing public art pieces. And yeah, I haven't been doing that much studio work. It's been more of kind of life work this year, but I feel like it's going to come out a lot pretty soon in my work as things reopen, and there's more shows to be had. So yeah, thank you. I guess that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to pop them in the chat, and at the end we will have a Q&A. This is really great to hear about your work, Sarah. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so now we have Jennifer Wildermuth Reyes, who says that they wanted a way to stay connected with other artists. She created easy to mail kits that included sturdy artboard and put the word out there on social media that she was looking for artist pen pals. Each piece got at least 2 turns by each artist. And here you see some of the works of the Artist Pen Pal project in mixed media. Dana Peters, Enter the Chrysalids, is a wall mural and video projection that captures her own pondering in the upheaval of COVID-19. What are the parts of us that are going to make it through this chrysalid stage? And what will be left behind? And what new surprises will emerge? Part of Home, a stay-at-home mural festival for the planet featuring over 800 artists from around the world. And I have a short little video here I'm going to share, which is showing Dana's process.
And this piece too was also part of the stay-at-home mural project hosted by Pangea Seed. And so if folks want to know more about that, I did put a link to that in the chat.
Okay, next we have Henry Zhu's Four Gentlemen, which is a digital painting. Henry says, four gentlemen matches four good human qualities in the Confucianism to four different flowers in China. The central theme running throughout is how these flowers blossom despite the various hardships of the environment. Throughout Shelter in Place, I also use the structure of plants to compose poems. This piece is created in pen, ink, and watercolor by Megan Nyquil, and Megan captures her reflections in this work. She says, I started a series of ecosystem paintings focused on Santa Cruz Mountains just as Shelter in Place began. Due to COVID and wildfires, I had to spend most of stay in SIP outside of Santa Cruz, and these paintings were my way to stay connected with home. They focus on the ecosystem of the San Lorenzo River watershed, which was impacted by the fires. Okay, this piece, Rachel Kippin's Plasticulture, Hawaiian luau weaving and kappa adornment with recovered agricultural plastic from Elkhorn Slough. Rachel has joined us tonight and will share a little bit more about this work. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about Rachel. Rachel is a coastal environmental advocate, nonprofit professional, and artist. She has over 15 years of experience in environmental programming at such organizations as the California Academy of Sciences, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, Catalina Island Marine Institute, guiding kayaks and crewing boats in Elkhorn Slough, and the Gulf of the Farallones, Save Our Shores, and the city of Watsonville. And most recently as the executive director of ocean education nonprofit O'Neill Sea Odyssey. She received her undergraduate degree in environmental studies and holds a certificate in nonprofit management, as well as a certificate in transdisciplinary justice education and social ecology. Part of her graduate research, she studied environmental justice issues associated with agricultural plastics and their many sustainability complexities, and worked closely with the Elkhorn Slough Foundation to retrieve discarded plastics from abused properties within the watershed where she began her weaving practice. And I also just want to mention that I am from Canada originally, and I have moved to Santa Cruz in the past 2 years, and I feel like I am definitely pronouncing a lot of these words wrong. So I just wanted to apologize in advance for that. Hopefully Rachel can correct my pronunciation.
Awesome.
I'm gonna pass it over to you, Rachel. Would you like me to switch over the camera to you?
Sure, yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, let's see. How's that? Good, yes, great. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me here. And it's just so wonderful to spend an evening with you all and get to see such beautiful artwork. So yeah, I'd love to share a little background about the process for creating that work in particular. And I also have several pieces that I've made during COVID, since we've been sheltering in place for now nearly a year. As Emma mentioned, my background is primarily in sustainability and in particular marine science, and I'm from Hawaii. My mother is a white woman from Minnesota, and my father is a Native Hawaiian person of color from Hawaii. So I have a multicultural and multiracial background. And I bring that up because the weaving practice actually came from that. The weave itself, the word is lauhala. So lauhala means lau, which is leaf, and hala is a type of tree in Hawaii. And so Native Hawaiians used to and still do weave everything out of lauhala. And I have some examples just to share with you. A lot of which are familial, which are just like really special to me that have been passed down. So for example, like this is a lauhala bracelet from my great grandmother. So the leaves of the lauhala are torn into strips and then woven together primarily by women, but also by men. And there's a lot less sexism in Hawaiian ancestry. And then also the practice today continues. There are still a lot of Native weavers. Interestingly enough, this is my grandma's lauhala bracelet that was given to me, and it's coated in plastic, which I find slightly ironic, in that one of the main things that I make art about and teach about and kind of have worked on over time is plastic pollution, which is a huge issue in Hawaii and then, you know, throughout our global oceans. Some other examples are like fans. This is actually Polynesians across Polynesia do weavings like this. This is from Tonga, so not just Hawaii, but also Tonga. Mats like this. But Hawaiians also use lauhala for like their bedding, their floor material, their houses, for sail making, even for, as Hawaii was being colonized, to create protest signs. So there's just so much, just really, I think, a lot of symbology in lauhala weaving. And I went to a cultural school myself. So it's kind of, I don't think many people know about it, but there's actually one remaining institution in the United States where you have to prove your blood quantity of being Hawaiian. It's not the only one, but it's one of few, to be able to attend this school that was created by the overthrown monarchy. So this princess set aside her estate to educate Hawaiians to try to perpetuate the culture even after the overthrow. And so I went to that school and I personally learned how to weave lauhala. And here in California, obviously I can't weave that. And also, unfortunately, in Hawaii, those forests are disappearing. The tree has invasive species that are ruining the leaves, and due to development and just all sorts of environmental issues, there's just not a lot of hala tree left. So how Elkhorn Slough comes into the picture here is that I used to work for Save Our Shores, and we did a lot of advocacy against plastic. And as I'm sure many of you are familiar who live in this region or any agricultural area, will drive around and see fields just coated in plastic. And it's like, you know, we're banning plastic bags and styrofoam. What are we doing about this? And so I went back to graduate school to focus specifically on that issue. And I was kind of this frame of mind where I was like, it's got to be bad. You know, it's got to be it just can't be a sustainable thing. But learned in the process that there is actually a lot of sustainability benefits, and it's just way more complex than I had any idea. And that brings up the Elkhorn Slough. So for those of you who aren't, and I like the way you pronounced it, and for those of you who haven't been, I highly encourage you to go. But if you drive down Highway 1 towards Moss Landing, the Elkhorn Slough is, I think, the genesis of life for our ocean in the Monterey Bay. It's just unreal. It's where we have our sea otter populations. It's a nursery habitat. I personally spend a lot of time there recreationally. And I worked with this foundation who goes around and restores abused agricultural land. So as I'm sure you understand, right, if you have this plastic that's covering the field, when it rains, you can have increased rainflow that causes a landslide. And so where I got this plastic, that actually happened in 2016, there was a huge rain. A landslide came down and buried about $20,000 worth of agricultural plastic. And I went out with the staff of the Slough Foundation and I ripped it out of the ground. And as I was ripping it out of the ground, I thought, how ironic is this that I'm going to rip this material out of the ground and then it's going to go into a landfill somewhere else, you know, and actually likely Watsonville, or also get burned. So I thought, well, why don't we weave it? You know, this is something I could actually weave. And so I experimented with a process that took a couple years to get down, to wash it, because a lot of it has pesticides on it, to wash it so that it is safe, to actually iron it. I've ruined all of our ironing boards, iron it, and then be able to weave it together. And so you know what this is. This is actually the drip tape. This is irrigation tubing. So, you know, a lot of times fields would be used like a sprinkler head that would sprinkle out water, and that could actually waste some water. So in a lot of ways, drip tape saves water, which is a huge issue for us in California because the water just seeps out of these little holes in the tape through the fields. So I take this out. I have an endless supply of it. Our house is full of it. and I weave it into Lauhala and Kappa style weaves. So the Kappa is the patterning that you see on that piece and some other pieces I'll show you in just a moment. And that's also kind of a Native Hawaiian style of printing commonly used on bark cloth and sometimes on Lauhala too. And so that's kind of where the inspiration came from. It also kind of came all together in COVID because I can't see my family. They're all in Hawaii and I'm not gonna go there and worry about getting them sick or killing them. So I talk to them on the phone a lot and I FaceTime with them, and my dad's just like so excited about this project in its entirety. So he's repainted a huge wall in my house, and he keeps sending me pictures of it, of, you know, what are you going to put in here, and what picture, you know, what Lauhala weaving are you going to do next? And so I've done several in COVID. Here's another one. And this is different, obviously, than Hawaiian style art, and that some of the colors are much more vibrant than you would see in traditional kappa, right? Because these are synthetic. Or like this, a really big one. And then I did also, what else did I want to show you? So these are all kappa patterning. And gold is definitely used commonly. And then lastly, just wanted to talk about, so this was part of my studying in environmental justice. And so many things came together for me at once because I studied ecofeminism, which is the understanding that women and nature have a shared history of oppression under capitalist patriarchy, which is a mouthful, but it's very relevant to this work, right? Because of women's bodies are polluted by the pollutants that we put in the environment. And also our work is often looked at as lesser than, especially what's traditionally women's work like weaving or quilting. And so it's kind of a reclamation of that, because a lot of organizing happens around that. Women share information with each other, they pass it down generations. Women who quilt, right? There's a whole history about women quilting and organizing for their rights. So I just wanted to share a couple things that I really loved reading in case you're interested. One is women's work. I can share this too in the chat too, women's work. Another, if you haven't yet, is Braiding Sweetgrass by Dr. Robin Wall-Kimmerer, just stellar. And then I guess the last thing too, I did a lot of my own digging into the cultural history of this. So I read up on weaving of Lauhala a lot, because I felt, you know, is it fair for me to call this weaving Lauhala? Because it's not Lauhala, it's agricultural plastic, it's toxic plastic. And the main message that came through in my research and talking to family members was that your culture and your history gets erased over time if you don't practice it. And just because you don't have the materials that your ancestors did, doesn't mean that you should stop practicing. And you can still, you know, just don't limit yourself by thinking, oh, just because I don't have those specific things, or I'm not at home in Hawaii, I can't be a part of this. And so that was a really helpful thing for me to think of too while I'm in COVID. So that's most of it, I think. Yeah, I'd love to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Rachel. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to pop those in the chat, and at the end we'll have a Q&A. Also really appreciate you correcting my terrible pronunciation. I should have practiced, and thank you for anyone who is being understanding of me right now. Okay, I'm gonna flip over and share my screen one more time here, so just bear with me. Okay, and here is Rachel's piece once more. This is another piece that's really difficult to tell in as the scale of the work. It's quite long and tall. So if you have a chance to come into the gallery and see it in person, highly recommend that. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, now we have Oscar Alex, As Above, So Below. It is a thought-provoking digital print. Oscar says, the microscopic and macroscopic bridged by the universal scale independent network structures. And with us, humans, right in the middle, slicing the cosmic web bottom up. Even in uncertain times, we don't stop looking for connection. Next, we have In the Dust Covered in Sun by Daniel J. These are darkroom photography series, and Daniel says, when shelter-in-place orders started, I began to build out my own in-home / bathroom, darkroom. I developed a deep interest in the poetics of chemistry and light play. I spent the daytime in our diverse biome taking 35mm and medium format photos, and nights developing rolls of film in my bathtub. So this piece actually has many pieces within it, as you can see here, and there are some fabulous collage elements happening, as well as some burning of materials in some of these pieces. And this is what it looks like in the gallery installed. And another close-up for you here. I really love looking at this because I feel that each piece is a different moment or a reflective aspect of this artist, and it's really great to look at. Okay, so next we have M. James Becker. This piece was made in laser cut acrylic. The artist shared that this isolation has foregrounded the structures of support that we rely on. In 1769, French trellis carpenters joined together to form a carpenters' union. This act of labor solidarity in a small snapshot of the type of worker led politics, which in a time of uncertainty and societal upheaval would push France towards a revolution 20 years later. It's a very symbolic trellis piece. Opportunity is a photographic piece by Liz Celeste. Liz says, all of the strangeness in the world whispered to me to be playful in my creativity. So I met with a Craigslist stranger to buy a box of expired film. There's so much uncertainty when it comes to double exposures and expired film. I was at the mercy of light and chemicals. Apart Together is a screen printed artist book with graphite by Angelina Reed. Screen printed and absolutely stunning when you see each of the elements of this piece. Angelina Reed was born in Santa Cruz, California, and raised in the nearby hills of SoCal. She loves art, science, and music, and was actually a physics major before finishing her BA in fine art at UC Santa Cruz. Angie enjoys working in a variety of mediums, from photography to ceramics, printmaking to jewelry, drawing to sculpture, painting to book arts. Her inspirations come from stories, memories, observations, and she is an idea-driven rather than a medium-focused artist. She often revisits and explores her subjects, ideas, and themes in different mediums, and frequently works in series with multiple pieces that weave together, much like a storyteller. Angelina is with us tonight and will share a little bit more about her work with us right now. We're gonna just flip over and share. Angelina is gonna share screens, so bear with our technology for one moment.
Okay, there we go. All right, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We can.
Okay, great.
Yes, we
Can you hear? I don't know if you can hear.
We can
Can you
hear
hear me?
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Thank you, Emma, Everett, Marla, and the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History for putting together this wonderful show, organizing these community events, and inviting me to speak tonight. And thank you everyone for being here. As Emma mentioned, I like to make a lot of different things, and I like to use photography, ceramics, printmaking, jewelry, drawing, sculpture, painting, and book arts. I let ideas lead me. Reflecting on a year ago, I was taking my second semester of screen printing with Tobin Keller at Cabrillo College and finishing up the first project, which was a printing warm-up. I was doing a responsive exercise printing these pink squares and thinking about plork, which is play plus work. And Sister Karita Kent talks about it in her 10 Rules for Artists and Teachers. You can check out a great video about her on the PBS show, The Art Assignment. We were having COVID-19 discussions at the beginning of every class as we watched case numbers increase in China and Europe. 1 year ago today, the US had recorded 12 deaths, 11 in Washington and 1 in California. Every day, more states were announcing their first cases. On March 7th, Santa Cruz County confirmed their first case. 2 days later, a second case. It was an uncertain time, but we thought classes would continue. For the second assignment, I had plans to take a painting I had done the previous year and make it into an edition screen print. And I was researching my piece for the Masters of Santa Cruz 2020 show, Women Who Inspire. I was at Cabrillo on March 13th when they announced that classes would move to online instruction beginning Monday, March 16th. I remember that I cried. What was happening elsewhere was clearly now happening here. I went to Trader Joe's and found entire sections of the store completely empty. On March 16th, Santa Cruz County announced a shelter-in-place order effective at midnight, 3 weeks to slow the spread. Over the next week, cases were on the rise, and so was my screen time. It became clear that we weren't going back to the classroom this semester. Our class met on Zoom to discuss options. While I fluctuated between fear, sadness, hope, despair, moments of happiness and productivity, and even more moments of being overwhelmed and unproductive, one student's words caught my attention. This is the time to make art, and that one day we'll look back on this and say, we did this. And so it began. Our class would meet and check in with each other 1 hour twice a week on Zoom. Tobin continually reminded us to do the best you can, be easy on yourself, that we have lots of permission to mess up, and that any printing we do is a big accomplishment. Our first assignment was to set up a workspace at home. I set up a couple tables in my driveway. Some days I had spectators. I joined a mail art mini book exchange as a way to connect with others. And our first shelter-in-place class assignment was to explore a virus print using materials we had on hand. Thinking about these COVID case maps I was looking at every day and how we are all physically distancing for our collective well-being, I came up with a plan. I would use freezer paper stencils to print orange circles of varying tints and opacities, reminiscent of those COVID case maps. The sheet would then be cut and folded to make a 3-inch square book. The only precisely planned element would be a semicircle that would be cut in half to become the front and back covers of the book. When the book is unfolded and laid flat, the two ends would be right next to each other, apart together. I would connect these two words with a line that just so happened to work out to be 6 feet. Imagine that. So I printed and printed and printed. There were sunny days when I had to move my tables into the shade, and there were rainy days when I had to pack it in. But most days look like this. I used 4 different freezer paper stencils to print on each sheet a total of 8 times. I even printed on envelopes. To finish the book, I used graphite pencil for the line and text. I folded each sheet and cut it, and then folded it up into this book, which was then mailed out to connect with others while sheltering in place. This is the piece that is in the exhibit. While I didn't get around to making a print based on my painting, I did print my piece for the Women Who Inspire show. I'm going to continue to play around with this imagery. I have lots of ideas. I'm also participating in a second mail art mini book exchange, and I'd like to organize another mail art project. While we continue to deal with this pandemic, I am reminded that hardships and challenges can bring gifts and rewards, and that a shift in perspective can affect change. Whether you make art or tend a garden or get outside to walk, I sincerely hope that everyone is finding time to reflect and connect during these uncertain times. Apart together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie. I really loved that diagram, or I guess it's not a diagram, that image that you showed at the end there. Definitely resonated really well, and I love hearing more about the work itself. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Of course. All right, I'm going to figure out here how to reshare. Also, if anyone knows about, perhaps how artists could sign up to be a part of book exchanges or other collaborative projects that are currently happening, please feel free to pop those in the chat, because I think perhaps many of our audience members would be interested in learning more. Okay. The 2020 Art Journal by Jamie Keel is a mixed media piece. Jamie says, finding quotes that speak to me and making collages to accompany them became part of the creative healing process. These were some bright times when my mind felt clear, creative, and moments where I felt like myself again. Hashtag Bright Spot has over 25,000 posts highlighting moments of happiness during this dark time. Share your bright spot by tagging Santa Cruz MAH, hashtag Bright Spot MAH. So you can also do that if you'd like to participate in this project. Mary Mcnamara's Letters to Strangers is another really lovely letter piece where Mary describes, during quarantine, I spent many hours in my garden, painting roses and flowers, and I started mailing them to family and friends. I contacted nursing homes all over the country and began sending out cards to strangers. I hope that they have given someone comfort. And here you see some of the letters that she sent. So echoing our In These Uncertain Times exhibition at the MAH, the Cessnon Underground at UC Santa Cruz also has a current exhibition called At the Present Moment. This community exhibition features art that UC Santa Cruz students, past and present, made during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to pop in the chat here a little bit more about this show as well, so you can take a look at the artists exhibiting with the Cessnon. And I believe the curator of this exhibition, Edie Troutwine, is here. And if you are here, Edie, would you like to share a little bit about the show that you curated?
Sure. Hi, my name is Edie Troutwine, like Emma said, and I'm the Chancellor's undergraduate intern for the Cessnon Gallery, and I'm the curator for the Cessnon's student space, the Underground. And at the present moment is comprised of 78 distinct pieces made by UCSC students during the pandemic, and it brought over 40 students together with media ranging from painting, sculpture like what we see here by Abby Carmel, sound, video, book arts, and more. And as an artist myself, I've been continually inspired by the creativity of my fellow students, and I was grateful that so many of my peers were willing to participate and share their work with us. And I'm equally grateful to the MAH for being willing to collaborate with the students and showcase their work in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Edie. Abby, are you here tonight? I don't think they are here. That's okay. This is Abby Carmel's piece, Chain. Then we have Kenneth Arnold's Screen Time, and I believe Kenneth is here tonight. Kenneth, would you like to share a little bit about this work?
Sure, that is definitely possible. Well, hello. Can you guys see and hear me okay? Everyone's good? That's all right. Excellent. Hi, my name's Kenneth Arnold, as you can see there. Middle name not disclosed. I'm an artist. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm an animal lover. I'm a gamer. I'm a streamer. I like doing a lot of things. Art's very important to me. And through my art, I try to express my emotional state as a means of trying to understand myself better, and through understanding my own biases and ways I see the world, try to understand a world in a different way that maybe isn't inherent to me necessarily. So this is sort of an example. It's kind of funny because this is this is just like I drew this and I was like, okay, sure, I'll send it in. I also want to shout out Edie because Edie's awesome. Appreciate you having me and always reaching out. I really appreciate it. And so, yeah, this piece, obviously, it has something to do with looking at the screen all the time, like sort of like we're doing now. But, whether it be for classwork or, creating art on the computer or reading or, just, fooling around on Reddit or YouTube or whatever, I always feel like I was like something like literally I feel like this sometimes where I just like I could be looking at anything, it doesn't really matter. I just need to be having something. I'll like catch myself like for like 15 minutes, I'll be sitting there just looking for a YouTube video. Like I'm not watching anything, I'm not necessarily directly doing anything, but I'll just be looking, right? And it's so liminal, so passive. So I think that's what this piece kind of inspired, was just kind of pulled out from. It took I don't know, a couple hours, I think in total, probably 4 or 5 hours, something like that. And the design, like the wavy spirals stuff on the screen, it's been something I'm doing for a long time. It's a more meditative process. So I think in this sense, this was me trying to pull away from the screen and to like force myself to be not looking at a screen. I'm just looking at the paper and just being like, okay, this is how I'm doing it. I'm just going to look at the paper. I'm not going to worry about it. So yeah, that's sort of what this is. And you can see a little drool and you're like, ooh, why you point out the drool? Well, there's a reason. Is because if you look at the drool, it's sort of the same design as what's on the screen. So it's like, and looking in the eyes and in the ears, right? And it's sort of like how we're just getting, I'm like, filled with it. It's like in my mind, it's in my eyes, it's in my ears, it's everywhere. So yeah, that's, and the faces, man, I just like drawing faces. That I can't tell you. Someone said it earlier. They're talking about how it takes them months to understand their work. I think it was Sarah. You're talking about how it takes you a long time to understand your work. I'm the same exact way. Like this piece is not indicative of my normal work. It's very sporadic, all over the place. Usually, I have my sketchbook here. I'll give an example. But it's like usually like all over the place. There's a lot of things in the work, and you know, I try and fill up the page, put a lot of detail in, really max it out, you know, like just kind of go gnarly. Let me see if I can move my mic real quick to give a better look. This is part of my sketchbook. I try to put like different textures and details in places and experiment, like kind of like the Bob Ross way of like just kind of flowing with your mistakes and see if you can incorporate them somehow. So like that's this kind of like coral, like I don't even know how to describe this weird texture, but it just kind of bends around. I like to use the ruler, protractor, straight lines, all that kind of stuff. I have an Instagram, Instagram.com/Ferocula, FER. I'll put it in. Also, same with my Twitch. It's where I live stream. If you want to see, I'll make art there and stuff. Someone asked for socials in the chat, so I'll make sure to drop that in. No problem.
Thank you so much, Kenneth.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think we've got one last artist tonight. I know that we're getting close to the 7 o'clock time, so thank you all for sticking with us. And we will be having a Q&A at the end too. And I know that several of the other exhibiting artists are joining us, so we're excited to hear from you soon as well.
All right, so our last slide this evening is Shina Bingham, mother and son. Shina, would you like to share?
Hi, thanks for having me. As a UCSC Porter College alumna, it's been great to connect with the Cessnon Underground on Instagram. So I want to just say thank you for including me in this. I just realized behind me is my work screen. So that's my work, which is not my art. Thank you for the invitation to participate. A longtime goal of mine has been to create art with materials that don't come from the art store. And that could mean recycling or using natural materials. And in recent years, I've been using earth pigments made from locally foraged ochres, stones, and clays throughout Santa Cruz County. The painting that you guys see there on the screen is a tempera painting with earth pigments, and the tempera is traditionally used. The binder is egg yolk, and it's on a clay board using natural locally foraged clays, and also some ink made out of oak gall and some redwood charcoal. The process for making these pigments is first of all gathering them and processing them. I go on a lot of hikes throughout the county and gather bits and pieces of stone and clays and grind them up and strain them and wash them. And there's a process called levigation where you suspend it in water and then pour off the different concentrations and leave the sand in the bottom of the bowl. This is one of my favorite rocks that I get. It's you can find it up at UCSC. It's a hard rock, but it has some mica in it, and it makes a pink shimmery color. Here are some of the colors that I've gathered. These are all colors from here in Santa Cruz County. Here are some of my recent, sorry for the background interfering with this. Some of my recent colors. So one of the ways I use these earth pigments is with I make watercolors, and the binder for the watercolors is plum tree gum and acacia tree gum that I find on trees on my hikes. And I also in the painting on the screen here, you can see the bottom half is a darker color, and that's using glare, which is a traditional coating of of an extract of egg whites, and I use that to create more of a dimension and shadow. I want to show this other one I've made. You can see that the egg white is the darker rectangles.
Yeah, you can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it.
No.
Sorry. Sorry, I've got the background in there. Anyway, the symbolism of a lot of my work is with, I like to do layers that kind of represent the strata of the geology, but also it's abstract and sometimes it's in the sky, and that's representing climate change and uncertainty. And in this past year, smoke. You know, Santa Cruz has always been, I've lived in Santa Cruz for almost about 30 years. And I've always thought of it as a very healthy place. And it was so very shocking to not be able to breathe, have our skies changed so much in the past during these fires that we've had. And the figures are a mother and son. That's my mom and my brother walking on the beach at sunset. And, you know, during COVID, a lot of people couldn't get together with their parents or different generations. So that's kind of symbolic of our experience during COVID. I think that's probably most of what I had to say.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing a little about your work. I find this use of materials is so fascinating, and what's available in our land here around the area. It's really wonderful to hear a little more about your process. Thank you. Everett, did you want to share a little bit at the end here?
Yeah, it looks like we've actually got some of the other artists from this section who are joining us tonight, and I'd love to hear from Jennifer a little bit more about the piece that was included in the show earlier this evening. It sounds like some of your collaborators are also joining us this evening too.
Yeah, hi, can y'all hear me? Yes? Okay, so I started the Artist Pen Pal project at the very beginning of COVID, and what I would do is mail out little 8x10 artboards in a little envelope so people could just get it in their mailbox. They wouldn't have to go to the post office. And then we each took turns working on it. And it was really good for me because I have the tendency to be very precious with my art and very perfect. And then I knew if half of it wasn't mine, I couldn't claim it. I couldn't cling to it. I just had to be happy with what happened. And it was just so awesome to see what everyone brought back and how it came out. So there's the 5 pieces right there. And then I've been continuing on. This piece was just completed. And then here's another one in process. And I have a little Instagram where I post the works in process and kind of try to rally for more people who would be interested. And it's just at Artist Pen Pals. So you can follow along to find out more. Any questions?
So great. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing that. It's been so amazing to see all of the artwork that people have been sharing and connecting with through the mail. I know that there was lots of wonderful pushes to get people to send more mail this past year, and it's just been really neat to see. So we have come to tonight's Q&A. So if you have any additional questions about any of the works that were on view tonight, I know that we also have with us Oscar Ehrlich, who is here with the piece As Above, So Below. You can kind of see it in your background here. And he also shared the link to the project's website. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? And then we can jump into the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Is it yes? Oh yeah, there's a thumbs up. Okay. So I'm Oscar. I'm a scientist and teacher at UCSC, and my domain is computer science. But I recently been engaging a lot with astronomers and astrophysicists. So this work is kind of a result of that collaboration. It's kind of hard to see what's in there because of the reflections. So I linked the actual like digital work, which is really the original shape of it. So you can find it in the chat. Anyway, how this came up is my lifelong fascination with fractals and with networks and natural structures, patterns, you know, call it what you like. And when I came here, I started talking to astronomers here, and we found out that these network structures that you see also behind me are actually literally filling the universe. So there is something called the cosmic web. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but yeah, this thing is connecting entire galaxies together, and it's basically composed of gas, like the primordial gas that, you know, was the origin of the entire universe, and of which the galaxies that we know today have been formed. Some of these gas have been condensing into galaxies and stars, and some of this gas has been just kind of hanging there loosely, freely, and it stayed until today, connecting all the galaxies as we know them. And so this huge object, unimaginably large, is called a cosmic web. And what we found in this scientific work is that the cosmic web actually resembles structures created by an organism that grows on Earth called the slime mold, in Latin Physarum polycephalum. And the slime mold is a natural connector of things. It will find food and just kind of interconnect it by this network of tubes. And so folk in the computational community have figured out how to actually simulate the organism. And so we took one of those simulations and adapted it to the purposes of the astronomical research, to work in 3 dimensions, to kind of more closely resemble the cosmic web structure. And what we came up with, inspired by this organism, is actually the first ever map of the cosmic web, which we fitted to galaxies which are observed by large astronomical surveys. So this has been kind of a revolutionary 2-year period since I came here, for personally and also for the scientific community. It's hard to say, you know, how much impact will this make on science. It's always kind of a random process or a lottery, but for sure for me this was kind of transformative. And you know what I see in this whole thing, some people have been asking like, hey, so is the universe a slime mold or something silly like that? But in reality, it's more of like the universality of laws and principles that guide things on different scales, right? Like the cosmic web looks like that because of physics, and things like slime mold grow the way they do because of some, you know, design that they follow to survive. Same way our you know, veins, like the first art piece, I forgot the name of the artist, but the lungs that have been made by the trees and branches, that's exactly the same kind of principle. That's how they grow. And so you know, the kind of tendency to connect these things together by some kind of description, you know, you can think about mathematics or you can think about art. They are both equally valid ways to try to comprehend these insane scales of things around us. So yeah, so that's why I made the piece that way. The other thing, and actually large part of the piece, is these little tiles, these yellow and blue tiles, which might resemble like a CT scan of a human brain or something like that, if you've ever seen one. So these are again just kind of 2-dimensional slices of the whole 3-dimensional structure, which just shows you that our brains, our neurons, are again connected in a web, and the web is again very similar as the cosmic web. And you know, what our brain does is kind of tries to connect things together, which is what we do as scientists, what many people do in their everyday lives, I guess. And it's also something that we kind of needed during the COVID times. I mean, it's kind of ironic that we've been connected by this like global condition called the pandemic, right? We all share this condition, and yet we're all sitting home isolated. So the piece that I made was kind of an homage to that situation, and I hope that poetry was not lost in the process. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here today and sharing your art, and happy to answer anything you might have.
Thank you so much, Oscar. That's beautiful, and also has some really neat parallels too. One of the first projects we did, this is actually the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of the museum having to close our doors. And so we actually did our first outdoor exhibition out in the garden. And so there's a mural by Irene Moraz O'Connell, and it's a portrait of community members all standing on this bed of green grass with mycelium underneath. And like that idea of mycelium kind of connecting all of these disparate entities, but just having this like kind of unified brain in a way. It's just been really neat to see kind of come up in so many different ways. So thank you so much for sharing more about that work. Yeah, and I think that we'll take maybe another 4 minutes for questions if people have them. I know that we ran a little bit over time this evening, so thanks for sticking around for those of you who did. Do we have any other questions for any of our exhibiting artists this evening, or any other questions about the show? Going once, going twice. Here's Oscar's piece right behind me here. Sarah's is right over here. And then we've got the Artist Pen Pal project over here. And I just cannot wait for more of you to be able to come and see. It looks like we do have one question from Nada, who asks, Oscar, why does the brain create tau protein entanglements in neurological tissues with this web? And is that reflected in what you see in your studies?
Can you repeat the first part of the question about the proteins?
I think they accidentally sent it as a direct message, but I'll just go ahead and post it here.
Oh, okay.
For you to read. Oh, that is a link to a different thing. But basically,
why is the brain a network? Is that the question?
Yeah, basically, why does it create these protein entanglements, and how is that reflected in what you see in your studies?
Well, there's a question on a neurologist, I guess, but yeah, why is the brain a network? We when does this show end? Oh, okay, there's another question. Okay, so that's a very difficult question because we don't quite know as like science, but it seems essential to processing everything. I mean, the question is like, how else could it be than a network? You know, what else could it be? So we have computers nowadays that definitely are not designed as a network, and they definitely cannot think for themselves. We have to program them to think. And the interesting thing is that when you connect more computers together, they start forming kind of their own behavior. You know, it's not that the internet is conscious or anything like that, but it's only when you start connecting computers together is when interesting things start happening. And the fact that we have social media, you know, where everyone's talking to each other, and then you have all these emergent effects coming out of that, some of them positive, some of them negative, is because you have all these different parts talking to each other. So in the brain, you have the same thing. The neurons, every single neuron is a very simple cell. You know, it has a few inputs, so to say, like they're called dendrites, and then they have one output, which is called an axon. The dendrites are usually short. They connect to just their neighbors, and the axons, they can be short or long. They can go across your entire brain or just somewhere to the local neighborhood. So your brain can be seen as sort of like these agents, these little creatures talking to each other. And if they didn't have the network to talk through, well, it would be a very boring place to be. But because there is this network, they are interconnected. And there is so many of them, like trillions, if I'm not mistaken. you know, altogether, we have very interesting things coming out of this huge network. So I don't know precisely why the brain has developed this way, but it's very hard to imagine that it would be any other way, just because all this complexity of our cognition, of our understanding of the world is in some way has to be embedded in that brain somehow, right? Also, there is something to be said about what is consciousness, and that consciousness is something of a mirror of the world, right? Like if you talk to a person, you start just subconsciously following their habits or their communication sort of quirks and peculiarities. So I do believe that our brain is sort of the mirror of the universe in some simplified, you know, reduced way, which is necessary. And then it's not very surprising that it also kind of looks like it. So I guess that's why I think.
Thank you for that. That's a nice little micro deep dive
Yeah.
into that. And someone else asked also how long the show is going to be open. So this exhibition will be open here at the MAH through May 2nd. So we've still got another full month, another 2 months that the show will be open. So the rest of this month in April. And so hopefully if we continue our case counts, if people are safe and washing their hands, staying distant, getting their vaccines, hopefully we'll be able to start bringing people in very, very soon. So please do keep an eye out on our website, and let us know if you have any additional questions. Emma also mentioned that we have 2 more of these events happening. So next week will be the final section of this exhibition. And then the final event will actually be a virtual film screening of several films that were created for this exhibition by artists from In These Uncertain Times. And also we'll be joined by Edie Troutwine again, who will be talking a little bit more about the cinematic or film process, and also introduce some of the projects for At the Present Moment at the Cessnon Underground. So thank you again so much, everyone, for taking some time to be with us tonight and to connect and reflect with us. We just really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much to all the artists. Rachel, all of your book recommendations are phenomenal, and it was just really beautiful to hear all of the different ways that you weave together, not just these materials, but all these ideas. And it's just really beautiful. So thank you so much. And Carol asks if there's any way to watch previous presentations. Yes. So once this whole series is done, we are going to release these videos as on the exhibition website. So keep an eye out for that. Again, join our mailing list. You'll be the first to know when all these materials are available. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you same Zoom time, same Zoom place next week. Have a beautiful night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.